in high school, I ran track, but like the 200 was the furthest I would ever run. So whenever I had that back surgery, I had 3 rupture discs in my back, couldn't stand up, couldn't walk. And at that point, it was just a matter of I wanted to get functional again. So had that fixed up. The Ironmans came many years later. Like I was 30 whenever I did my first one. And I just wanted to see if I could do it. And that's kind of been the story of my life, is finding a goal. All right, let's see what this is all about, and trying it. And if the worst thing I can do is learn something from it, then it's a win.
Welcome to the Tyler Dickeroff podcast with me, your host, Tyler Dickeroff. On today's episode, I have Ramsey Bergeron. Ramsey is a speaker and a resilience and mindset facilitator. After being unable to walk at 19, having a compressed disc, he had a back surgery. Again, years later, had a back surgery and ended up competing 8 Ironman triathlons. I kind of want to jump in there, Ramsey, and just about that. You know, you went from being, let's say, disabled, unable to walk, and then you completed 8 Ironman triathlons. What drove you to do that?
Well, I would say there was some master plan to do Ironmans whenever I was 19 years old, but there wasn't. I was in high school, I ran track, but like the 200 was the furthest I would ever run. So whenever I had that back surgery, I had 3 rupture discs in my back, couldn't stand up, couldn't walk. And at that point, it was just a matter of I wanted to get functional again. So had that fixed up. The Ironmans came many years later. Like I was 30 whenever I did my first one. And I just wanted to see if I could do it. And that's kind of been the story of my life, is finding a goal. All right, let's see what this is all about, and trying it. And if the worst thing I can do is learn something from it, then it's a win.
Have you always been like that?
Yeah. Because it's, my dad passed away from medical reasons whenever I was 12.
Okay.
So I already got dealt a bad genetic deck from that, because he died from complications from diabetes. So I could have very easily said, well, diabetes runs in my family, I can't stay in shape. What's the point? But instead, I dedicated the first half of my life to my physical well-being, like just trying to be the best version of myself physically that I could be. Yeah.
So let me ask then, how did you injure your back? Was that part of this chase to be, physically well? Was it something totally different? Help myself and the audience kind of let us peek in there.
Fair enough. Well, my dad had a degenerative disc disease in his back, and I also played football. So football really was the impetus to destroying my back. If I ever have a son, he's not going to play football. So then my first back surgery at 19, second back surgery at 26, because if you have one, odds are you're going to have another.
Gotcha.
So that's after my second back surgery, I entered into the fitness world and started my own personal training business that I had for 15 years to help other people, work through injuries or just prevent themselves from getting injured in the first place.
If we look around the world today, fitness has been probably part of our social landscape more for decades. It's really become, I would say, more mainstream the last 15, 20 years. Now we get into today where finally executives, I would say business people, are starting to understand, I should probably take care of myself. Where did your experience, when your body broke down, kind of rebuilding it, gaining the strength, how does that translate to a lot of the people that you speak to?
It's all about perspective. And this is really kind of like why I wrote my book and what I help a lot of leaders with. It's not the things that happen to us that determine our reality. It's how you want to view it. It's what lens are you viewing that through? So I could, I had herniated those same discs in my back when I had 2 Ironmans in 2012 and 2013. 2 Ironmans coming up, and the doctor said, you can't run. No matter what you do, you're going to have another back surgery if you run. And for a while, I was very depressed and demotivated. Well, I can't do these races. One was in New Zealand and one was in Whistler. So I'd already got my plane tickets. I was going to go, hike with Frodo and see Middle Earth and all that cool stuff. And then I thought about it, and I could still swim, and I could still bike ride, and I can walk. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to go try. I'm going to go try these races. I'll start, and if I have to stop, I'll stop. So I finished both of those Ironmans walking every step of both of those marathons. But if I had in my head told myself, well, the doctor said you can't run, you just can't do anything, that would have been very limiting for me. So I think helping leaders realize so we're so often we focus on what we can't do that we don't think about, well, what can I still do? What
Yeah.
can I possibly learn from this situation that could help me in the future?
I have a couple friends who, one got injured playing football. The other one was a football player in college and got injured in a boating accident. Both of them are paraplegic. Um, and one of the things that I've learned from both of them is it's unbelievable what you still can do.
Yeah.
And, there's almost this, whatever happens in life, this circumstance, well, if this happens, I'm done. And I think we rarely find that that's the case. There is so much more to do and there's so much more purpose. So if you look around and you say, all right, this grand purpose of yours, you share about your dad, you share about yourself, you share about these challenges. What's the purpose that you think you're really, looking to help people, guide them through on themselves?
Well, I had a coach once who helped me realize that your branches can only grow as high as your roots grow deep. And
Mm.
so understanding all the different challenges and struggles that I've encountered in my life have helped me be able to have more empathy and learn to develop tools to be able to reframe situations that are challenging. And I really feel that's my purpose is to help other people learn how to reframe scenarios that they have trouble with. I know I spent years of my life in this rut, and I know it doesn't sound like that, but no, I even have hard days where I can't get out of a certain mindset, and so I'll develop a tool or exercise or do something to help me reframe it. And then the answer seems so easy once we have those aha moments. And so I want to shorten that time for my clients, to be able to have those aha moments and not have to spend 5, 10 years, beating their head against the wall before they can finally see something a little differently.
When you talk to people, what do you find is the biggest hurdle that they're trying to overcome themselves right now?
Right. Well, right now it's fear. Right now, everyone's so afraid of just the uncertainty that's going on in the world. Um,
Give me some context. Like, when you mean uncertainty in your viewpoint as you talk to them, because there's a lot of uncertainty. Rather, is it going to be sunny? But give me kind of some context when you're like, all right, what uncertainty?
I mean, my role, I really feel has changed a lot, quite honestly, since the last election.
Mm,
There's been just a lot of uncertainty in what's going on in the world right now, what's going on with the markets, what's going on with my business. Um, that I guess everyone that I work with seems to have a base anxiety level of maybe a 3 on a scale of 1 to 10, just based on that. And then you throw in the challenges that they have in their own job. So a lot of the leaders I work with, it tends to be either imposter syndrome tends to be one of the largest things, or they're newly promoted in the role. They still don't know if they're feeling adequate, or if they're, because a lot of them are still doing their old job. And so I encounter that a lot too. Leaders still doing the job that they used to do instead of doing what they quote unquote should be doing now, which is building other people up. Um, and fear of failure. Like fear just keeps so many people stuck in these patterns that aren't serving them anymore.
gotcha. Is you mentioned the last election in the U.S. So we're almost a year removed from that.
Yeah.
And, it's you don't have to go by a week or two and see the constant, I would say, battle or the drum being beaten of more and more fear as opposed to, kind of what you have in your background, control what you can, instead of people saying, hey, all right, this is where we're at. We have elections every 4 years. We have them every 2 years. Go about life. That doesn't seem to be what everyone is being told by the outside noise. Is that what you would agree with?
I do agree, and I do feel this election was a little different, and but how much of that matters? And what I mean by that
Yeah.
is kind of the
Yeah.
point of what you're saying is what's within my control.
Yeah.
So, I'm also half Palestinian. My mom grew up in Jerusalem as a little girl. My parents were the United Nations, so I was born overseas, and
Okay.
we moved from Switzerland to Arkansas when I was 5. So, like, people ask me all the time about my opinion on things going on in the world, and I say all I can do is be the change I seek. What is
Yeah.
within my scope of control? I vote how I vote.
Yeah.
I help the people in my life, and if I can help people change their mindset and focus on what they can control, then that's the difference I'm going to make in my own little corner of the world and of the universe. And I know I can leave this earth today knowing that I've done that already. I've made the difference. What else can I really do?
Do you think that was born in you with that political, not political background, but that background of ancestral background, right? Having traveled to Israel myself, having been in Jerusalem, seeing the relationships between Israelis and Palestinians. And what I found when I was there 5 years ago, is the Western world has a dramatically different perspective because of what we're told than actually what goes on there. That was
Yeah.
what I experienced. And so I'd love to kind of either get you to compare, contrast, but also getting back to exactly what you said is then acting in a way that it's like, I don't have to worry about everyone else. I got to worry about me, and then kind of centric out from that. That's what I take. But I'd love to get your
Yeah.
perspective as one Palestinian, that heritage, but what a lot of people in the Western world do not understand about what's going on in Israel.
Well, I think I want to be very careful and thoughtful how I really respond to that.
Sure.
It's we see what we look for, and
Okay.
and the reason I share that is there's that old leadership thing. Say, hey, look around the room. Let's notice everything that's blue. All right, close your eyes, and
Yeah.
what do you see that's red?
Yeah.
That kind
Yeah.
of little misdirection type thing. And because we see what we look for, we often allow other people to tell us what to look for because
Ah.
we don't have the intent of seeking truth or seeking clarity because that's hard. Why I want things spoon fed to me. So
Can I put an interjection in there?
you
Part
sure
of
can.
this.
Yeah.
Do you think the drive for clickbait even makes that worse?
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of where I'm going with this
Yeah.
is whenever I do a part of my presentation on stage and I kind of misdirect the audience, and I'm like, well, why'd you look? Oh, it's my fault. I'm the one that told you to
Uh-huh.
look at that. And I asked them, well, who in real life tells you what to look for? Like
Uh-huh.
the news, social media, your community.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so what do you want to look for? And so many of us just are in that echo chamber of what we feel already reinforces our viewpoint that we don't tend to feel comfortable looking for things because we tie our belief with our sense of identity now. And if
Mm.
something proves me wrong, then
Yeah.
I don't know who I am.
I
And then that
think
causes people discomfort.
well, and I think that point, if you go back to what you said earlier, all of the fear,
Yeah.
I think the underlying driver there is whatever you thought, well, is no longer. So wherever you identified, whatever that identity was, if you were comfortable, I'm a bald, middle-aged white man, right? If that's what I am, you're bald, guessing we're about the same age, great. Do we need to struggle over, the heritage, national? No, it doesn't matter, right? That doesn't matter when we look at it if we're okay with it. But if we come to a point where, okay, Ramsey, this is a big deal, now all of a sudden we're like, well, we were cool yesterday. Why is it a big deal
Yeah.
today?
Yeah.
I think that's what's gone on that's driven a lot of this fear. Coming back to that identity is even as leaders to say, hey, what does our company stand for? What are our values? Well, they've been our values for years, but now all of a sudden you're telling me those values are wrong, but yet why are they wrong? Well, I don't know what they're wrong. They're just wrong. And it's like everyone has this hyperventilating of reestablishing identity instead of, I think, coming back to what you've established and what you've shared is just be okay with who you are.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people don't know who they are. And so whenever I spent,
Yeah.
I was a sponsored athlete for many years by EAS Sports Nutrition. They were paying me
Yeah.
to go do these Ironman races. And so I thought that that's who I had to be to go do these events. And I remember I went to go do one in Ireland in I think 2018. And I decided I don't want to do this anymore. I pulled the car over and, I told my wife at the time, I just started crying. I'm like, I'm tired of being who I think everyone else wants me to be. And so I put on my social media, I don't want to do this race. I want to go drink a Guinness and just unwind because it's 100% chance of rain. The water is 55 degrees. What do I have to prove anymore? I don't want to do this. And I then started to find my authenticity of who I was and
Mm.
not who I thought the world wanted me to be. I think so many of us just wear that mask constantly because we've built this identity based on what we think makes other people happy. And then we're miserable in our own lives because we don't know who the hell we are. And that's one of the things I think I help leaders do is learn Let's find out who you are. Let's strip away the labels, strip away the title. Who the hell are you? What do you want out of your life? And so many people, I think, are missing the boat on that.
How did you do that?
How do I, for me or for other people?
For you.
Um, I guess I had to hit bottom. Like I had to get so
Mm.
tired of wearing that mask, so tired. It takes so much energy to be fake. It takes so much energy to remember who I'm supposed to be and to project nothing but strength and the whole like man up, like, no, don't show weakness. That whole lie that we're taught as boys of what it meant to be a man. And I just I had to suffer. I had to
Mm.
really come to terms of I think Jim Carrey has a great quote when he talks about this. Like that's where depression comes from, is you're playing the role of a part of somebody you're not. And once you recognize that, it's like, well, then what role do you want to play? Who do you want to be? And through, therapy, my best friend passing away in 2020, plant medicine, just doing the work, going back to school to become a certified coach, just peeling back the layers and unlearning all the shit that I thought I needed to have right to just figure out what is right. What do I feel like? What's really going on within me? Um, and really slowing down to ask myself, what are these feelings telling me? They're not bad. It's just listening.
Do you feel like you were ever doing that to prove to your dad?
Ah, man. Um, my dad wasn't the greatest person. He
Okay.
had a lot of demons.
Okay.
Um, but it's funny you mentioned that. I have an older half brother from my dad's first marriage, and I saw him for the first time in 15 years. I spoke in Orlando, and he lives there. And after the rest of the siblings left the room, he's kind of like now the patriarch of us. And he said,
How
I
many
just want to
siblings?
tell you, what's that?
How many siblings?
7 total.
Okay.
5 from my dad's starter marriage, and then me and my brother,
Okay.
full brothers. But my oldest brother held me back, and he said, Ramsey, I just want to tell you that if Dad were here today, he would be very proud of the man you become.
Mm.
And I didn't realize how much I needed to hear that. Um,
Mm.
just started, yeah, that really, really hit me. Because I guess, yeah, I have felt like I had a chip on my shoulder, that I had to be more. Growing up as a half Arab in Arkansas had its fair share of challenges. Called every name in the book. And then, to have my dad pass away when I'm 12, it really, I guess, launched my search for identity of
Yeah.
who do I want to be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's interesting is, um, going through that process in some ways myself. I don't think we as a society understand the time period between, I would say, 12 and 15. Obviously we can look at a lot of very, very millennia old cultures that recognize that time period, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you look at a bar mitzvah, you look at all of those things you go through. It doesn't matter, the I would say, the background. It all goes through that Native American, like very much the same.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned that, and I think of myself and the struggles that I went through, much the same in that same age range in trying to figure out who I was, what I was. And I think what's interesting is for me, it was a traumatic event in that period that put a mask over me. And I
Mhm.
just relied on that to keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing. It was just be intense. And I think as we look around, as you shared, my story to your story are not unique in the fact that I think there's a lot of people that go through that. And as I recognize and hear from you, that fear that overwhelms a lot of executives stems from much of the same.
Yeah. Yeah. I think high achievers or people that have experienced that in childhood end up in one of two camps generally. Either they're the CEO or they're homeless, and it stems from the same core issue of, am I ever going to be good enough?
Mm-hmm.
And so, whenever I'm working with C-suite, you'll have those people that they've, by every metric, they're successful, but something still doesn't feel right. I started writing a book called Chasing the Rabbit: Why Achieving Success is Never Enough. And because whenever I would cross an Ironman finish line, like, all right, well, what
Yeah.
now? Like, I feel great for a
Yeah.
couple of days. And then that okay, but the feelings fade. And that's one of the things I
Hmm.
help people recognize is every feeling you have fades. What are you chasing? How are you happy in this moment?
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's always feeling like, all right, yeah, that was great, but now what? Just that
Hmm.
sense of unfinished business of always having to raise the bar and do more, do more, do more.
So what do you do for yourself now? What's the, I guess, what's the difference? Let me interject there. A mentor of mine shared, instead of aiming for a finish line,
Yeah.
just go through steps,
Yeah.
just one step to the next step. And that's something that I've embraced, whether I realized it or not. And so I wonder what do you, look at differently now? How do you view it?
So my mantra that I try to live by now is the man who enjoys walking will always walk further than the man who enjoys the destination. So I'm in the process of scaling my business. I'm in the process of hiring other coaches to take on some larger clients. And I'm enjoying that process. I'm not so focused on checking boxes. It's the process. So I have my Pomodoro timer, which my desk is a bit of a mess right now, but I break my day up into 20 right here. I break my day up into 30-minute time blocks, 25 minutes and five, where, all right, well, I'm just going to focus on one task and get as far as I can in that time period. Yeah, I have goals, but I think one of the hard dichotomies for leaders that I try to help them with is yes, we have goals, but what are we doing right now in this moment
Yeah.
in order to get there? So
Yeah.
I meditate daily. I journal. I do what I can to move my body. You know, I was spending so much of my time on my physical well being when I was younger. I was neglecting my mental and emotional well being, and so really figuring out what do I need, and just slowing down and listening um, to myself and just enjoying it, man. I've got a VA now. I have an assistant who helps me with all my social media for the most part. And I love my life. I was in Montana last week for hosting a day long thing. And I spent the week there. I went hiking and just, this is what it's all about, man. It's getting to experience different things and really taking the time to slow down and appreciate that when I can.
Um, I, one of the challenges that I find as I, talk and work with people as well is encouraging people to slow down to think. How I'm guessing from what you just shared, you find the same thing. How do you help them get to that point to say, hey, thinking is a valuable part of your day. Do more of it.
Yeah. Whenever I'm partnered with a company, I create intentional journals for them where every morning and every night they have certain protocols to write down and follow. And uh, part of that is just to get them in the habit of slowing down to think. I tell people, you have systems for your operations. I'm going to create systems for your mindset. And by slowing things down like that, that's what I try to help them do. Um, it's I tend to take long pauses because I also want to sometimes think before I speak as well. Because so many people are in a hurry to get the next word out without thinking, does it even need to be said? And helping people learn to just slow down. I did a 10-day silent meditation like 4 years ago, 10 days of no speaking, no eye contact, no reading, no writing, no music, no exercise, just 100 hours of meditation in 10 days. And just learning to sit with your thoughts because most of your thoughts are lying to you. And most
Mm.
people identify with their thoughts. And so helping them create that space between stimulus and response to say, all right, well, are these thoughts even true? Who do you want to be? What's your intention here? Just slowing down really creates clarity, I think.
There's an adage that slow is fast. The movie Cars, which I watched years ago with my kids, it's like you got to slow down to go faster. And yet our society doesn't want to let people do what you exactly did. And I think part of it
Yeah.
is with this, I don't know what they're called, achievement. I just had a conversation with author Ruchika Malhotra, where she wrote the book Uncompete. And a lot of it is like, stop this chase to, cross finish lines against people that you don't even care about. Like
Yeah.
it's just, oh, I crossed it before you. Well, what does that matter if you lost everyone that's important in your life
Yeah.
behind you? is kind of what I took from it. And I think you're touching on much the same. Marcus Aurelius, meditations was this ancient wisdom. Solomon, one of the wisest men ever. This same wisdom. You go through, the Hindu, the Buddhist, like all of them have this similar concept of stop worrying about what other people think of you and just slow down and appreciate the world. And I really gathered that's what you're trying to impress upon people and share that I was racing to, do all this stuff to prove that I was,
Yeah.
an athlete, fitness and everything. And then I realized, dude, these races don't matter. That's what I've
Yeah.
gotten from you.
Yeah. I think slowing down allows us to really question what's the intention. And I use the analogy of giving to charity. Are you giving to charity because you believe in the cause, or do you want your name on a building? Or are you trying to
Uh-huh.
hide money in a divorce? So it's not the action. What's the intention? What do you think this is going to do to help you? And so many people confuse distractions for actions. And so I
Mhm.
have these little
Yeah.
Ramseyisms, and one of
Yeah.
them is don't confuse your distractions for actions. Was I running across the finish line, or was I running from feelings of inadequacy? And so helping people slow down to say, what's really going on? Sit with it, sit with it, sit with it. Really, really find out what's going on within you.
Let's talk about this as you're um either people are reaching out to you, say, hey Ramsey, come speak to us, or as you're trying to, promote yourself, sell your speaking. What's the biggest pushback that you get from organizations to think, well, I don't know if this is right for us?
You know, what's funny, Tyler, is I haven't had an organization say, I don't think this is not right for us. Because I think my main keynote is called Your Powers and Your Perspective. Um, I talk about I was a DJ for 20 years doing weddings and corporate functions, and I was at a wedding maybe 15 years ago where the bride went to cut her wedding cake, and the venue didn't lock the legs of her cake table out all the way. So this 5-tray cake falls all over the floor, and then the bride starts laughing, and then everyone in the room starts laughing, and so my book is called Cake on the Floor: How to
Mhm.
Handle Life's Unexpected Moments with Resilience and Grace. And I think every company, I work across all different industries, be it automotive, healthcare. I've worked for the army. That it's not what happens; it's how we choose to view it. And I can frame any situation like that. And so I haven't really had a company push back with that. If anything, it's budget. And talking about, well, what's the cost of your people being burned out? The companies I don't think realize. I
Yeah.
think I take that back. They're starting to recognize the cost of overwhelm and burnout. And so now I think the reason that my business is going well is companies we need to bring people like you and I in there to help them with their mindset, to help with how they're feeling and how they're viewing their struggles or stressors at work.
Well, I guess what I gather from you there is, there's pushback because we don't know if it's that big of a problem. Like we
Yeah.
understand it's a problem, but if we knew it was a bigger problem, we would give you an empty, a blank check.
Yeah.
Come solve our problems. But yet, as I've had those conversations, as I've, spoken for organizations, they're like, well, we don't know if we need to talk about vulnerability. Yeah, you do. Yeah,
Yeah.
you do. And it's a problem. Well, we don't think it's a problem. It is a problem for sure. And I
Agreed.
think that's where I gather, and it was kind of wondering you're saying is like, as you talk to people, as you interact with people, we can give them all the answers, right? But they're like,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's that big a problem. I don't know if
Yeah.
I need to go do that. You know what? Our solution is not slow down, it's push harder, go make more sales, do all those things that
Yeah.
are constant business. Like, dude, you're not getting anywhere. Like people
Yeah.
are walking out the door faster than they're coming in. And I find based upon what you were saying earlier, the fear level is that fear has them paralyzed.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what to do different. I know we need to do something different, but man, if I take the risk of, taking time to think, to meditate, to, be more vulnerable, to really question, like, why are we even doing this?
Yeah.
That's going to take more people out of the game rather than re-energize them. That's the feeling that I get in interactions. Is just wondering if you find the same and or how you handle those conversations.
I think whenever I'm working with a company and the leader is truly in alignment with the values they've set out for the organization, things tend to go well. It's, you know, I have this assessment I can give people called the Energy Leadership Index. And I don't know if you've done a DISC assessment or Strength
Mhm.
Finders, but this one shows people how stress changes how they show up. So it's more of an attitudinal assessment than an aptitude assessment. And it shows people like, hey man, when you're stressed out, you're a jerk to your team, or whatever the case may be, or they overextend, or whatever the case might be. But leaders who aren't in alignment, who are just, well, just bring this guy in to placate the team, just bring him in. Well, it's like having the equivalent of doing the pizza party on a Friday. I've done presentations where the leader's not even in the room when I'm speaking. And I've also done them where the leader's in the room taking notes when I'm talking, and I can tell he wants his organization to thrive. So there's some organizations I choose not to work with
Yeah.
anymore, because if I can tell that the leaders aren't bought in, you're wasting my time and your money. It's not really going to work, because
Yeah.
you really need to
Yeah.
believe
Yeah.
in wanting change in your organization.
Yeah. So I guess that's what I'm talking about is as you find that, like what you
Yeah.
just said, is like, dude, if a leader's not bought in, no matter, I could promise gold to everyone.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
Yeah, it's kind of like whenever I was a personal trainer and I would create nutrition plans for people. If I put salmon on their nutrition plan, but they hated salmon, it's a worthless plan. If they don't believe in what I'm creating for them, then why the hell am I doing it? So the same thing with an organization. So now I tell companies, look, if your C-suite's not going to take this, I'm not going to do it. Because if I'm just doing this for frontline people, and then they have questions they're going to ask their managers about, and their managers don't know what the hell they're talking about, then this is worthless. Like, we really need organizational change starts at the top. You have to start with the people in charge to understand how stress is affecting how they show up. Because if they don't understand, like what you and I are talking about, slowing down to create space to make better decisions, they're going to think that frontline people are just goofing off, or just they're taking that moment to be better stewards, to interact more with customers, be better salespeople.
Yeah.
So that has to start at the top of the organization.
It's interesting as we look at, coming back to this comment about fear. A lot of, I would say, fear spans the spectrum of workforce, from the top level leaders to the frontline workers. And I think this goes back to, we saw this during COVID. I remember this during 07, 08, is the ones that are willing to say, okay, I'm going to go all in about getting support, getting help, making changes. I tend to think those do better long term than the people that just put their head in the sand. Kind of like what you said. All right, we'll bring in, XYZ, we'll bring in Ramsey, we'll bring in whoever, and they're going to fix all of our problems. I'm like, if you abdicate your problems, nothing's getting fixed.
Yeah. And so many companies also will stop after the half day. Like, they'll do a seminar, half day workshop, and then go back to doing the same crap the next Monday that they were doing. It's like, well, how are we creating long-term sustainable change in mindset? It's not just, I come in for 4 hours and tell people what they need to do. What are we doing to create the systems to make this a reality, instead of just lip service? Because it's all great in theory. Yes, we should slow down. Yes, we should be more mindful. Well, one, what does mindful even mean? And two, how do we allow for that, or create systems to allow you to slow down during the day to appreciate those moments?
We've talked a bit about perspective and it being a superpower. If someone's listening and they work for an organization, it's like, man, all right, we need to slow down. We're trying to go too fast. The wheels are falling off the bus. What would you say to them to give them perspective of how to start eliciting or bringing about some change, not only for themselves, but maybe their organization?
It's a great question. Be the change you seek in the organization. How do you structure your day and your deliverables and your timeline? And how do you enjoy the journey of your day at work? If you're one of those typical managers that have more on your to-do list at the end of the day than the beginning of the day, and you never go home feeling like you've accomplished anything, then I would encourage you to reframe how you're even viewing work. And this is why I created a system called timeout, because everyone loves acronyms, TIMEOUT, to help people learn how do you create time blocks, insulate, empower your team to focus on one thing at a time. Because if you focus on one thing at a time, you will get so much more done using these time blocks, because we all think we can multitask, but we're 40% less effective when we do that. So, I would say, and I would encourage you to start by write down everything you need to do. Write down all your responsibilities in a week, sort them by category, and say, how much time do these realistically need in a given week? And then you index that and you put them in your calendar, and focus only on one thing at a time. Put your teams on do not disturb, your email and auto reply, kind of taking some Tim Ferriss tricks here to just, insulate, to be able to get focused work done. And then once your team starts to see how effective you are, they're going to want that. It's the same thing whenever I was a personal trainer. If someone, I want my wife to get in shape. Well, you know what? You get in shape. And then like, oh, wait, what do you do? I want that. And so helping people be the change you seek, the organization is going to see that you're doing that. And then they're going to start noticing, listening.
So if someone says, and you kind of shared this earlier, when we were talking before the open of getting people around you to help, right? Your VA, like you recognize, you go through that list and like, dude, this is enough work for 3 people.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've heard, Darren Hardy, I've spent a lot of time, over the years, listening to Darren, and it's like, make your list 1, 2, and 3, do those, and the rest of it doesn't matter. If somebody asks, where is that? Well, then it matters. Find someone else to do it. It's kind of almost finding the way to delegate of what's really, really important or not.
Yeah.
I don't think enough leaders do that. They're just the dumping spot for all the actions need to be done, instead of saying, do I need to be doing that, or can we find somebody else? Can we delegate to a junior person on the team, help them rise up? Or maybe that is finding a virtual assistant. Maybe it is, reallocating some of our responsibilities. So that way, I think managers middle are often tasked with doing too much.
Yeah.
Because they aren't willing to say enough.
I agree. And there's 10,000% do I agree with you. And there's a lot of reasons, I think, for that. One, middle managers, they were generally promoted to that position internally, which I think is fantastic. But then they want to show their team that they're in the trenches with them. So they still end up doing the job of the team and not managing the team, or better yet, developing the team. So they're doing it. They're accidentally making themselves the bottleneck, so nothing can get done because they have to do it. The team's not learning how to do it, so there's no upward mobility for that middle manager because they're not even doing the job that they're now supposed to be doing. This comes back to fear. They're afraid that if they're not doing the team of the old job, or doing the job of the old team, that the team's not going to respect them. Like, oh, he's a sellout, now he's a manager, he's not helping. And the people above them won't view them as valuable if they don't see them being busy all the time. So that's one of the things I help new leaders do, especially, is learn, how do you, like, what does leadership even mean to you? Like, let's get clear. What do you feel your role is as a manager at your level at the organization? Is it to, I think Simon Sinek says it, are you in charge of people, or are you taking care of the people in your charge? Like, what are you really doing to define yourself as a leader?
Yeah. Yeah. I go back to Jim Collins, level 5 leader, John Maxwell, 5 levels of leadership. And it's, if you understand that pyramid, that climb, those stair steps, then it's easier for someone in that position to understand what their role is.
Yeah.
I find it that many organizations have no idea.
Agreed.
They just are constantly promoting the top performer and expecting them to lead when they get there, as opposed to having this corporate culture and identity of what leadership really is, which is to help others perform at their best. Yeah. And go ahead.
I use the analogy of, if someone's a great flight attendant, they don't get promoted to pilot and expect them to fly the plane. It's like, what are you doing to train those people that you're promoting, to train them to be successful in the new role? We're training people into failure. We're promoting people into failure.
Yeah.
We're promoting people into positions that they don't have the skill set for, which is great if you provide them with the tools to be effective in that new role. But you're right, most organizations don't. They think, we promoted them, they're a great salesperson, they'll be a great sales manager, and that's not often the case.
So I found this, I'm guessing based upon what we've talked about, is a lot of the reasons that ends up is that the executive has way too much on their plate and is just expecting that other person to figure it out. It's kind of sink or swim. Or they bring in someone from the outside. Hey, you come in and train my people how to lead. You train them and they're like, oh, that isn't what I wanted. And it's like, well, if you would have been involved in the process, we would have delivered and you would have seen this is what you need. How do you overcome that stuff?
By having regular check-ins with the leadership, with the executives. And I put that in my contract. Like, hey, once every, depending on the duration of the engagement, I want to check in with you. I want to hear from you, let you know how things are going, and make sure we're in alignment here. Because if you don't do those little pulse checks, you're right. We can be, what is that? That one degree off is how many miles at sea. So no, let's make sure that we're constantly in congruence of the goal.
Yeah. Do you find that in the, you know, current of stream now where there's fear and there's more to do in less time, that they're easier to have those conversations, or those conversations are harder to hold people to?
I think it depends on the relationship that I've built with that leader.
Okay.
Because if I've done a good job of letting them know that, hey, at the end of the day, I'm on your side.
Yeah.
Because sometimes no one likes having the mirror held too close. And like we talk about, because if I come in and I say, hey, if they're perceiving it as me telling them they've done something wrong or that it's bad, then I'm not going to get that buy-in. So making sure that they know, like, hey, we want the same thing. We want your team to thrive. Anything that I'm bringing up is from a, let's focus on what we can do to improve whatever our KPIs are for this. Because some people can, I don't want to say some, how do I want to word this? I think it depends on the character of that leader, because some leaders will take it very like, I appreciate you bringing that up. And some leaders get super defensive.
Yeah. Well,
And
I mean, your answer tells me everything in regards. It's a challenge.
yeah,
It's a challenge for that very point, that there's some leaders that have done the work themselves. It's easy. Great. We're in this
yeah,
together. Help me be the eyes I can't be. And then there's the others that take it as, well, I didn't really want to do this, but we know we need to do something. So you're the guy that's here to do it, but I don't want to take any responsibility. And you're asking me to take responsibility. And the whole reason you're here is so I don't have to take responsibility. I can see where that leads to pushback. I've experienced that. And it's
yeah,
oftentimes coming back to what you shared earlier as you were driving to the race is, why am I doing this?
yeah,
Like, what is this for? And I think that is that layer of fear that we continue to come back to is in everyone. At what point are they willing to pull back the veil? At what
yeah,
point are they willing to be vulnerable and authentic and say, all right, this is who I am.
yeah,
I got promoted because everyone else retired. I have no idea what I'm doing. The reality is, anyone could work for that guy
yeah.
or girl.
Agreed. Agreed.
Anyone could work for them. It's the one that is, I got promoted because I am the ish, right? I
Yeah,
can do it. And then all of a sudden, Ramsey, how dare you come in here and tell me that I'm not leading them well? And they're all like, they're not getting anything done. And it's like, dude, you're the problem. Like,
yeah,
just admit it. It's okay. We've all been the problem. I've been the problem twice.
yeah,
Like, I'm the problem.
yeah. I agree with everything you just said. Yeah.
How has your experience, what you work through, allowed you to connect with people there?
So my podcast, which I haven't recorded an episode in over a year, but now that I have more time, is called Break Your Ego, Find Your Soul. And for me, back when I was a sponsored athlete, I was doing all this stuff. I was very egotistical and narcissistic. Um, and I didn't realize how much that just really stemmed from insecurity. And it was just projection. Um, Having been there, I can tell when other people are there. And in the past, that would have made me angry or upset. Like, who does this person think they are? But now I can understand that we're all just old, scared children. Like, we're all just giant 8-year-olds. We turn 18, a bolt of lightning doesn't hit us and make us wise. We're adults. We don't know anything. So by looking at that leader with compassion and humanity, I can connect on a different level
Mm-hmm.
and just be able to listen and hear and validate without calling them out directly.
You talked about hitting a rock bottom moment, brought
Yeah.
you to that. I call them mirror shattering moments,
Hmm.
because it's the mirror that you thought, everyone says, look in the mirror, look in the mirror, look in the mirror, until the mirror is shattered. And then all of a sudden, dude, I'm broken. Right. And one of the things that I found is that when somebody gets there, dude, it's easy to help them up.
Yeah.
It's the person that's looking in the mirror and like, man, dude, I look good today. It's like, those are the ones that I think I was and people struggled with. I think that's the leader people struggle with.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the most challenging executive leader in our world. Unfortunately, a lot of corporate culture celebrates them.
Yeah, but the rank and file don't. And
I
so
agree. I agree. They
and so
don't.
one of the things I ask leaders, and this is the point I was going to make when I had my brain fart earlier, is think about leaders that we had, like a manager you had when you were young, that you still to this day probably remember their name, or like
Uh-huh.
it was so and so, and they really helped me rise up. And what about them stick out to you that you remember them, that make them a great leader? And I bet it wasn't that they had all the answers all the time. Like for me, it was a guy named Owen Reed. Whenever I was in Memphis, I started off as a DJ in a bowling alley. And then 5 years later, worked my way up to be in the national director of field marketing for 25 units. And had Owen not believed in me, or like, hey, that's a great idea, let's try that, let's run that. Leaders that are open, that are okay to let you fail to learn, failing forward, that are humans, that can admit when, hey, all right, we tried that, it didn't work. Like that's what I look for. Um, and I always encourage my leaders, like, think about that person for you. Who's that guy? Like, what would they do?
Mhm.
And try to emulate that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree, but I also know that a lot of organizations continue to hold on to that. Um, the harder we squeeze the orange, the more juice we get out. Rather than, hey, if I hold it and I let it mature, there's going to be plenty of juice there.
Yeah.
Everyone just running around trying to squeeze every last moment out of it, bit out of it. There's an element where I learned this, and I would rather be an incubator than an incinerator. And you have a lot of leadership today, then, and it's not news, it's been this way, that they burn up everyone and everything while they
Yeah.
get burnt out, rather than, put a nice little warm lamp on them, put a nice little, bed underneath them to where they can grow, they can incubate, they can become whatever.
Yeah.
Again, I think the challenge is I was, they put me in the fire, I survived. That's what you got to do with people, as opposed to,
Yeah.
no, they brought me along, like the guy you were just talking about is just, it's reinforcing of what really
Yeah.
works.
And with your orange analogy, better yet, what if you planted the orange and you had a
Yeah.
whole tree? But so
Yeah.
many people don't want to do that. Like,
Yeah.
and it's just burning people out for no reason. And I think now we're starting to recognize that that doesn't work. I know you said that it's been that way for so long, but it companies employees now have more freedom to
Mhm.
leave.
Yeah.
We're in a day and age now where you're not going to work there 50 years and get the gold watch. If you find you're not being treated well, I say that, but
Yeah, but I think generationally we've seen that prove.
yeah,
Millennials and Gen Z are like, dude, if you're gonna treat me like that, dude, I'm out.
yeah,
As opposed to, Gen X, you're like, dude, you just got to put in your time, because that's what the baby boomers did. And we were such a small generation. We're like, can I really stand against this?
yeah,
Okay, maybe not, maybe so. Millennials come along and they're like, oh, you're not gonna give me a pool table and foosball and free beer and on tap, then I'm not working here. And
yeah,
everyone's like, where the heck did this come from?
yeah,
But it was them exercising agency to what we're just
yeah,
talking about. It's like, I want you to care about me. It just, they came in such a strange way.
yeah,
Whereas now I find Gen Z's like, if you care about me, you give me purpose,
yeah.
dude, I'll do anything for you.
Agreed. Yeah, and I think so. The point that I lost a second ago, whenever you talking about these people that came in, these C-suite people that, well, this is how I did it. This is the way that things are. What they did worked for them and served them. Like for me, that got me to do my 8 Ironmans, which really helped me learn a lot of tools. So what I try to help people realize is, okay, but is it still serving you?
Yeah.
So it's just a way of viewing it a little differently. I'm not saying that, oh, it's that's garbage, that doesn't do you any good. No, it got you to where you are today. You're successful because of that drive, because you were willing to put in 60-hour weeks when you started off in the mailroom, and now you're running the company. Congratulations. Like genuinely, you've put in the hard work. Is that work ethic still serving you? And if it is, what is the cost? There's always a cost. For me, I don't go out drinking because I want to get up early and meditate and
Yeah.
start my day right. So there's always
Yeah.
a cost. I don't have the
Yeah.
same set of friends that I do, or
Yeah.
that I used to,
Yeah.
that had different values. So
Yeah.
if you're burning the candle at both ends and you're expecting your team to, what is that costing you, and what's that costing the organization?
I think that point there is so imperative. It's, you can get there,
Yeah.
but man, there's a cost. And as I think myself getting older at 46 and moving along, it's like, yeah, the cost wasn't worth my family. The cost wasn't worth, a potential another marriage. It wasn't, children that are, you know, completely, I don't even know them. It's like that we see so much in society, those things happen.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, you can have the yacht, you can have the cars, but it's like your family doesn't even talk to you.
Yeah.
The friends that you're like, man, I really enjoyed them. Doesn't. So what's it worth? And, I use the example of like, if you're 8 Ironmans, that's what the cost was. And you get to a point, it's like, dude, this isn't worth it.
Yeah.
If you look back at, oh, what was the opportunity along the way to take people with you? To help,
Yeah.
maybe you only complete 4, but man, you have 37 people that you helped complete marathons. And now that's looking back, complete real room year, but it's like, man, that would have been a lot more fun. And I'm just making stuff up, but I think about that. My same self is, if I wouldn't have been pushing so much to just prove that I was worthy, man, how many more people would I have gone with that
Yeah.
would be much more enjoyable?
And I love the point there about like proving your worth, right? And so, do you want to prove your worth, or do you want to learn what it's like to find your worth?
Mhm.
Like, do you want to be a successful leader, or do you want to learn what it takes to develop the tools to be a successful leader? And this is where it comes back to that whole journey. It's like, do you want to sell your company, or do you want to learn what it takes to grow your company from nothing to be able to get it to a place where you can be successful and sell it? That all life is that journey, and leadership's the same way. It's not like I'm going to go take one more leadership course and now I'm passed. I'm the best leader possible.
Yeah.
Congratulations, here's a certificate.
Yeah.
Who are you on that journey, and who are the people that you're helping develop along the way too? Like, that's all we've got are those relationships, and that the miracles are in the mundane. It's those
Mhm.
1,000 moments of getting coffee and chatting with the receptionist on your
Yeah.
way in, or just being kind to people. Those little things matter so much, and we want to skip over those to cross those finish lines or to start a new company.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that doesn't matter.
I think that in a sentence is the massive reframe. It's about the people and nothing else.
Yeah.
It's about the relationships. It's about the people. And I think even in our polarized world today, if we start looking around at the leaders, the examples that have really made that what they're about, I think that differentiates um, the few from the many.
Yeah.
The ones that are, instead of it's about me and look at me, it's oh, look what people accomplished. Look
Yeah.
whose lives were impacted. Look at, the bigger picture, as opposed to, you want to attack me because, I wear a flag or a rainbow flag or a red hat. Like, get over it, dude. Like, how am I serving people? Judge me on that one.
Yeah.
And I think that's where our world needs to get to more, rather than being so polarized because of the other identities. Have the identity of, I serve people.
I agree. But it's hard to do that when we're fearful, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what's holding us all back.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
a lot of it's fear of the unknown, right? Because we think different means bad. Other is bad.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what a lot of the narrative is reinforced on us right now. Like, these people are coming for your jobs, or these people are
Yeah.
coming for your houses, or coming for your guns, or coming for your
Yeah.
religion. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, are they? Like,
Yeah.
just let's go talk to some other people
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
see,
Yeah.
and build
Yeah.
bridges. But what we,
Yeah.
we don't, we're just so scared.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Ramsey, where can people learn more about you, your work, all those things?
Thank you. My website, bergeronwellbeing.com, Bergeron, wellbeing.com. My book, Cake on the Floor, is available on Amazon. Yeah, those are the two main
Awesome.
places you can find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for everyone watching on YouTube. If you can hit the subscribe button as well as the bell to get notified whenever we drop new content. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, if you can rate and review this episode, it will help more leaders find impactful people like Ramsey. Till next time, choose to lead with impact.